Yo, so this is the project for bootleg of Where's Your Head At by Basement Jaxx. I'm going to take you through some of the choices I made and some of the things I did involving the main group channels of this tune, so I can show you Mixdown techniques and the different things I did to achieve the way this tune sounds, which is just built for the dance floor really. Punchy drums, huge sub, nice mids. So yeah, let's go in straight to the kick. So on this kick bus, we got the analog EQ, which is just giving it the tonality around 60 Hz, and then attenuating just to stop it booming so much. I want it to be tight, particularly for a tune like this where you've got flat sub. You want a tight kick, you don't want a flabbing kick that's going to mess with the sub. And then we boosted at 8K, which is just giving it the click or the transient poke through, and then attenuating the road tops at 20,000. Then we've got the Pro Q, which is rolling off the bottom so it doesn't mess with that sub. A little spike at 98 Hz to give it the punch. And then just attenuating that click around 5,000. You can see that's way too pokey. And then we got the CLA 76, which is giving it the punch, I think. Yeah, it's just squeezing it nice and tight. And then lastly, we've got the Camel Crusher, which is just a limiter, so it doesn't ever go above 0. Just rounds it off nicely. Let's move on to the snare. So firstly, we've got the Pro Q2, again rolling off the bottom, giving us the punch at 184, and then just attenuating the tops to taste. And then we've got the analog EQ, just giving a little boost at 100, which sounds ridiculous, but when you listen to the whole tune, it does give it a little bit. It just helps it to cut through a little bit more, and then boosting 12K to get that shine, and attenuating 10. I find when you boost these and attenuate together, it sounds nicer than having not on at all. Even if this might sound too. When you boost this, it usually works out nicely, but if you attenuate the same, it can sometimes give a shine, but a not. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Just try it. If you have this EQ, as you boost, attenuate as well, and you'll find that it sounds better than it does before, but you haven't just boosted something, if you understand, which just boosting stuff to sound better is not very good practice in most cases, but with the tops, slight boost here and there work. As long as you attenuate first, otherwise it's just going to sound too thrashy and brash. Brash? Is that a word? Anyway. So yeah, next we've got the FabFilter Saturn, which is just giving it the dirt, clean tube, gentle saturation on the very top, just boosting that little there on presence. And then we've got the alloy, which is shaping the sound the most out of all of these. So it's really squeezing it, but not squeezing it to sound squeezed, it's squeezing it in the right areas. So we've got the multi-band dynamics on there, not really compressing the bottom at all, below 490, but really squeezing the mid-range on the snare to get that pop. And then the top squeezing again, just to get that transient nice and pokey. But then we're also using a short release as well, so you get the tail end of the snare as well. Same with the mids. And then we've got the transient, just to give it the real spike, just to help it cut through Initially, when I'm mixing and I'm making these changes with these plugins, I'm always listening to the tune as a whole. I will never mix as I'm showing you here with the group soloed. I'm just showing you this to you so you can really hear the differences. But yeah, like I said, when I'm mixing and moving these sliders and getting it to sound the right way, that feels good to me, sounds good to me even, I'll always have you can really hear the difference that makes there. It's much less punchy, it's much less spiky at the top, and it just sounds a bit flat. So that's making such a good, big difference. And then lastly, we've got the passive EQ, which is my favourite analog EQ of choice, because you can affect the mids on this side and the sides on this side, which is like very nice indeed. So we've got a boost at 6k on the mids, and then we're boosting slightly at 15k on the sides, and this is just giving the sides the air. So yeah, and then lastly we've got the Camel Crusher, which is just a limiter with a bit of tube on it, mixed slightly down. Sorry, just before the analog EQ, the passive EQ, we've got this compressor, which is giving it the tail. With the mix on 4 it sounds too much, but as you start to bring it down, you get the best of both. So you get the nice tail on the end and the pokey transient, which gives it a much smoother result. Okay, so let's move on to the hats. So we've got the Pro Q again, just taking out the lows. Analog EQ again, really attenuating the highs on this one. In this project I didn't go through each individual hat and really go in on it too much in terms of EQ at the top end. Sometimes I'll probably get a bit lazy and I just decide to do it all at the end, which is what I seem to do here, which is just attenuate 10k. Other times I would go through and find the one which is poking through the most and sort it out, but on here it seems I just haven't really done much EQ on the top end of these hats. Some there, but nothing major. So then we've got the compressor, which is giving air to the hat. That's compressed way too much, but again, parallel compression, bringing the mix down and getting the best of both. Helps your hats to really breathe and smoothen them out. And then we've got some sidechain compression, so sidechain to the kick and sidechain to the snare also. And this is just helping the whole groove take place, so the hats are breathing in and out of the kick and the snare. And then lastly, for the hats, we've got a hat widener, which is just a bus I've set up with a really tight room, courtesy of Valhalla room. Tight chamber, sorry. And then the S1 imager, just completely spreading that. So as you can, I hope you can hear. I'm using headphones right now, but I hope when it uploads it translates well. But I can definitely hear the difference in that. Just done so much wider. That just helps fill the spectrum for your drum. And then we've got the tops, which is the really, really splashy, almost just noise at the top really, most of the time, just to fill out those drums. So lots of splashes and cymbals, one ride. Just a combination of thrashing hi-hats, which I've done through drum kit, Logic's own thing. This is better than what's it called, Superior Drummer, by the way. Much better. No, I'm joking, it's not, but it's good enough for now. Just for what I need it for, just these splashy hats, it works a trick. So, and then on the tops we've got the Pro Q, just attenuating the tops again, rolling off the lows. Not that there's much, but just to be safe. And then analog EQ again, boosting 12K to get the shine. And just attenuating the very tops. And then we've got a compressor. Really squeezing those hats. And then a bit of sidechain off the kick to get the pumping feel for the whole groove. Don't let the walls cave in on you. We got it wrong, you wrong without you. Don't let the walls cave in on you. Just realised one thing I missed. On the snare, there's a splash. This, just white noise, I think. Yeah, and that just helps with the tail of the snare. But this isn't being sent to the snare bus because I wanted to compress the snare itself. This is going straight to the drum bus, which I'll show you now. A bit of reverb on it. But that just gives the snare some splash. Okay, so the drum bus, we've got the Pro Q, just boosting at 67, just that really low kick. Thought it needs it at the end. Sometimes when I've done most of my processing on each group channel, when I get to the drum bus and I hear it again, I'll even change things still, but it's just all... So yeah, just boosting at 180 again. This 1K region is always the clappy region, I find. So if you want to get a really acoustic sounding sound, like drums, you won't have much information. But for the more clappy, splashy kinds, this is the key area. Just attenuating the 8K again. Sometimes, even though I boost with these, I can see how I boosted at 12, taken away at 8. It's just it all seems very precise, but it's really not. It's just your ears working as the tune develops. You decide you boost something at that point, and later on down the line, you take something away. It's all part of the puzzle, really. You don't, when you boost something, you never know if it's going to stay that way. You're just doing it at the time, and the tune will change as you hear the tune oh God, in my case, several hours at a time a day, your ears change to what you want to hear. So your perception of the tune will change as you're working on it. So anything you do processing wise, it's never set in stone, because later down the line you might decide to take a bit off the tops or add a bit again. But like I said, it's all about developing the tune, and just making these adjustments as you go. So yeah, we've got the EQ, and then we've got another alloy, which is doing shaping the drums again, so making them to sound as one. We've got the compressor, multi-band dynamics again. Helping them to jump. Quite transient on the tops, slightly less attack just to get the real first pokes of the transient, and then transient module, which actually is just doing the tops. And then finally the drum bus, which finally on the drum bus we've got the camera just crunching it slightly with the tube, just pulling the mix down. And then the parallel compression bus, the very last thing. So on there is the waves compressor, the API tube. This is one of my favourites. If I'm not using the CLA, which is on the snare, or Logic Zone compressor, which is actually great, like very underrated. It has so many different options on it to emulate different compressors, so it's like 5 in 1. Anyway, yeah, this will be my go-to if I don't use those two. So I've used that for this. This gives it a nice compressed, not thrashed, but squeezed sound. And then just getting rid of the very lows on that. Just getting rid of the body, really. This is just for that transient top. And then the Saturn again, just to give it a bit of dirt. Okay, so that was part 1 of my Mixdown series that I'm going to do. So in this part we've covered the drums, all the buses. Next we shall move on to the main Reese and the mids bus, and we'll also cover the sub bus in the next episode as well. So hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time.